I can see on her face, she was kind of recounting the way that he said it to her. And it was very emotional. Like, she was even getting emotional telling me what he had told her. And she's like, I listened to your 3 videos you put up so far, so I kept asking him questions, and I kept saying, well, what did it look like, and how tall was it, and blah, 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 blah. She's like, so I asked him everything, and he says, right in front of him, there was a creature who was maybe 9-10 feet tall. It had very, 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 very dark auburn hair. Its eyes were almost red, which is very strange to me. I mean, I've heard a lot of encounters. I've been all over YouTube when the first thing happened to me and listened to a lot of encounters. This is very strange what he saw. He says he did not get a very good look at its teeth. I guess this thing only opened its mouth just ever so slightly, so he didn't really get to see what kind of teeth they were. Oh, and the smell. He said there was a smell in the area that was sickening, god-awful smell. It was like a mixture of like trash and BO, and it was just a horrible, disgusting smell. He said the smell was so bad he almost gagged. Anyways, this thing was about 10 feet tall, dark auburn hair. He said it did not look like a human, and it didn't really look like an ape. It didn't really look like anything he'd ever seen in his life. And she said, well, do you think it was a Bigfoot? Is that what you're saying to me? And he said to her, I don't know what it was. I don't know what to call it. But no, it didn't really look like what you would think in your mind a Bigfoot would look like. And she was trying to get from him, God, I wish I could have talked to him and gotten more specifics. But very hairy, but his hair wasn't long. It was maybe 2 or 3 inches. Really, really big, massive hands. His face did not have hair on it. His face was like a dark brown, dark grayish color. He said that he actually had like lines going through his face, like by his mouth, like kind of like a human would as they age, which was really weird. And what else? I'm trying to remember everything she told me. She said that it looked, even though he could see like through all the fur, it looked like this creature was extremely muscular. He said, I felt like if he wanted to, he could have reached to the right of him and picked up the pine that was next to him and pulled it out of the ground. That's honestly what he said he felt that this thing could do if it wanted to. And I kept asking her, did he give her like specifics as to what the facial construction looked like? And she said, no. She said he just kept saying it didn't look like a human, and it didn't look like an ape or a monkey. And it didn't look like anything he had ever seen before. He didn't even know how to describe it. It had a big nose. It had a big mouth. Its eyes were just extremely wicked looking. And he was so uncomfortable. He was scared. He was trembling. And he said then all of a sudden somebody whistled, and he thinks it was another volunteer that whistled from behind where the creature was standing. The creature turned around to face the direction that the whistle was coming from, and the creature ran. And he said this thing was gone in a flash. He said in a flash. He's like, I don't even know how this thing moved as fast as it did with the, with how heavy it was and how big it was. He said, but this thing was out of there. And so I don't know what he saw. I don't think he even knows what he saw. I mean, I have heard of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them, having dark, sometimes almost reddish hair. I have a few times heard that their eyes look red or reddish. I wish I could have talked to him and asked why he felt that it didn't look like a human and it didn't look like ape or primate-like. He said it just looked unlike anything he'd ever seen, but it just looked wicked. She said he must have used that word with me at least 10 times. He used it over and over again. This thing was just wicked. It looked wicked. It looked like it had wicked intentions. And she said this really bothered him. After he told her, he kind of just went into himself and really didn't talk much for the rest of the day. And so she asked him, well, did you tell anybody about what you had seen? And he said, no, I didn't tell anybody right away. He said, but he did tell his superior about 2 days later when he finally, I guess, composed himself enough to be able to talk about it. And he said, I told him exactly what happened. And he turned around and he looked at me and he said, okay, thank you for telling me. I'd appreciate it if you would not tell anybody else. And he asked him if he had told anybody else. And he said, no. And he said, okay, thank you. I will deal with it and I will take care of it. And that's all he said, which doesn't make sense to me, because what's he going to deal with and what's he going to take care of? You know what I mean? I mean, what does that even mean? What is he going to do? Have they been told, it's so strange, because why would he say that unless... Now, I do know who his superior is because, like I said, this is a small town, and his superior is a much older man. He's actually about to retire. So I would not be surprised if he does know some stuff and has seen some things, because our area in general as a whole, our area has had quite a few sasquatch sightings. There's even Dogman sightings in, I heard one just the other night, actually, not even 20 miles away from where we are. I mean, we are so rural. Actually, right now, looking out my window, I'm looking at the mountains, and there is nothing else around me for miles. It is just this house and whatever is in those woods. And what is in those woods is obviously just a lot more than I've even seen or heard or know. This really kind of shook me because, I remember that so vividly. I remember that whole event. I remember how the whole town was like, how does somebody just disappear? Their clothes, their shoes, their pack, the things in the pack, socks. I mean, nothing was found of this man. Not a shred of anything was ever found. He just disappeared off the face of the planet. It's like he was, existing, and then all of a sudden it was like, poof, he's just gone. And that part really gets to me, because even if, here's another weird thing. And they did question, the guys that he was with and his buddies, and, did they hear anything, or, did they hear any unusual sounds? And they thought, they asked him, did you guys get in a fight? And they looked into everything. But these guys said, no, he didn't cry for help. He didn't make any unusual sounds. He didn't call anybody's name. We were all just standing there, and he was standing there. And then all of a sudden it was like we realized he was no longer standing there, and then he was nowhere to be found. So it was just, this was the talk of the town for quite some time. Not just because somebody went missing in the woods. People go missing in our woods all the time. But we find them and then bring them back, and everything's fine. People usually do not disappear without a trace, in our area. And if somebody, does succumb to the elements or whatever, we usually find them. So this was extremely bizarre. And for it to be somebody that I sort of knew his wife. I had seen this man multiple times before. It just hit very close to home. It was very bizarre. It was very strange. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought everybody might find that pretty interesting. If I do find anything else about this, if she tells me anything else, I will definitely let you know. There's actually another thing that happened literally pretty much in my backyard. Well, what we would call backyard for being so out here, but maybe not even 8 minutes from where I live. This was actually all over YouTube. This was on the news. This was a big deal. This thing that happened near me, a man disappeared and kind of was one place, and he was completely different place. So there's been some strange things happening in our area lately, but I just wanted to share that with y'all. I hope everybody is having a really good week, getting ready to go into the weekend. Thank goodness, thank the Lord Almighty, because I need a break. It has been a rough week, and it just needs to end. So thank you to every single one of you. You all are really, really, really awesome people, actually. Every single one of my subscribers who has left me a message is on my videos. You all are really, really neat, awesome people. So I look forward to seeing more of your comments. If you guys have any suggestions, I know a lady said she could barely hear me, so I'm trying to be a little louder right now. So just leave me any comments or suggestions, and thank you all so much, and much love to everybody. Bye-bye.